Hi. Okay, so today's video. Okay, I'm realizing the last video I did. So I guess I will. This video is about education. So it kind of works actually with the last video because I left off with learning Hebrew because of the way that the characters are in Hebrew and how they represent certain things. So what led me to education is just how effed off it is. um when I think about how education was and what we've learned about how education was, it wasn't something that was lucrative. It was, but in a different way. So, like, if you learned a trade back then, you were helping, say, the shop owner, because then you gave them a chance to do more of the business than of the actual making of, say, ironworks or things for cooking and such, So you would teach the next person because they would become then the master, right, of that. And then they would teach the next person and it would go on down the line. But it wasn't something where you had to pay for it. So along the lines with religion, actually religion and education are very tightly linked because there was a time that the students were paid to go to school because I think they wanted people to teach more about the esoteric teachings, because that's really where school started. If you look at the Egyptians, which is really where we see most of the evidence of this, is that people went to, quote unquote, a mystery school for years and years and years, basically for your lifetime. You're always practicing. And one of the most important things to deal with were fear and emotional stuff. And then you would work your education to basically stay healthy, live a long time, and help others to do the same, right? So if we look at like college and certain studies, what the hell? I'm speaking from specifically my education, which is cultural anthropology, main focus on African American studies and African studies. It's mostly untrue. Outside of school, I learned that most of what I learned in school was not true. So it's kind of like folly, right? We go to school, okay, massage college, that's not a folly, right? This is where we can bring in trade. I learned a lot in college, yet most of what I learned was my own research, my own brain, because my teachers were taught the same things that were taught in the books and their teachers before them. So we have generations of wrong education being dictated as education. And then where's all the information about the peoples before us? There's so much information before English or Latin, right? But we got to dig for that information, which I don't mind. And I'm really grateful for This is one of my favorite things about the internet and things like Google and even YouTube. And it's just amazing how much information is out there, or how much links to information is out there. But yeah, I'm just really recognizing. I mean, I've seen this before, but also if we're looking at the big changes of this year and the big changes of education, healthcare, a lot of people like the schools. I think it's called Monsanto. That's not right. Gosh darn it. It's basically an artistic school where the children don't really have tests and those type of things. There's not a lot of pressure. They invite the child to be who the child is. And a lot of parents want their children to go to those schools, which also brings me to the vaccination scene. I think that goes right in there with the education. I have my own personal beliefs about anything that is given for free that is injected into your body. I don't care what they tell you it is. I'm just one of those kind of people. How do you know what it is? You don't know what they're putting in your body? Oh my gosh. And basic education is illness is based off of your immune system. So you keep a high immune system, you will not get the flu. Even if you're around 15 people with the flu and they're all coughing on you, if you are getting enough rest, eating well, and your immune system is up, you are not going to get sick. And also if your mental mind is well. Because if you walk into a room with one person who sneezes and automatically think you're going to get sick, you may get sick because you think you're going to. And your immune system may be fine, but that one thought of you thinking that I'm going to get sick now will shut down your immune system and you can possibly get sick. So, because your body responds to your thoughts. However, if you're going off of science, why would you put something in your body that's going to make you sick for a little while? With the idea of boosting your immune system. That's the whole point of getting a flu shot. Do people understand this? And so when it comes to vaccines and such, I understand certain vaccines. Like, I grew up in the era where we had the polio vaccine, and there are plenty of people who are very grateful for that. I still am not a big fan of getting shots for free. I just don't, unless they're shots of alcohol, maybe. Take a couple shots of alcohol for free. I'm just kidding. I probably wouldn't do that either. But I'm just saying, like, when it comes to education and this fear of letting people go to school with other people because they haven't had a vaccine, when you're talking about children and forcing children, okay, let's just eliminate the sickness part of it. What about kids that are terrified of needles? Period. And they have to go to school, and you're telling them this is the only way they can go to school. How's that relationship gonna go? Just the idea, it's just reinstilling trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. School is already traumatic for a lot of children. Then you want to put on top of it the parents, whatever they got going on to the children, and then the children, come on. Anyhow, I do not agree with the government or whole groups of, I believe fear-based people who may not have the time to really investigate what their afraid of, because I think if you think about the human race in general, and the diseases and trauma and wars and things that people in slavery and, oh my gosh, still what's going on and surviving it, I think a lot of the fears of, and kids have the best immune systems there are, as long as they're, well taken care of. So I don't know, I'm not, because it relates to education, and I think that there is a system within that, which is basically to maintain an idea of competitiveness, because even with that, you're looking at parents who are competing with other parents. People within their own families are having freakouts about vaccinations and children, and on Halloween you're willing to go to a bunch of strangers' house and trick or treat, but you don't want to hang out with the neighbor's, classmate because they weren't vaccinated. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you're looking at a whole world of unvaccinated people, and they're thriving. Okay. And I'm just linking that in with the education system and the things that are taught to us in ways that actually ensure an emotional reaction rather than an actual logical reaction. Racism is a perfect example. It's kind of gross, but it's literally it's scientific. It's a mutation, right? This is where albinism comes in, or being an albino, right? It's a mutation. It's scientific. There's nothing, witchcrafty. Maybe way back there was, but there's nothing extra special about a vaccine or someone's skin color in comparison to going to school and education and having a logical mind and knowing how to be healthy and how to survive and have brilliant ideas and brilliant ways of doing things that aren't regimented to a history that isn't completely true. Shit, I need to look into the polio vaccine and all that, because I'm gonna look into that, because like most things, there's a preamble, so to speak, a preparation, a pre-test. So I'm going to look into that. I wonder where it even came from. Okay, so speaking of education, started over again with the schooling 12 steps. I think they're similar. Just one day at a time, working through what may come upon as physical and emotional. Recognize, I think they're all connected. I think that our emotional, our spiritual, and our physical are connected, especially when we're going off track or on track. I've noticed a lot of body pains for a certain amount of time, and then shifting after a certain amount of time of, I'm guessing, emotional work and emotional work, because muscles hold memory. And doing this. Sharing that part. The personal recovery of being addicted to a lot of the cultural expectations, and then doing the own drama, healing work which does go through to our ancestors as well. Let's see, some things I can suggest on that. I'm going along with a lot of other people. Look into like the narcissistic, codependent families, even CPSD, which is chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, and look into all different types of ways to help with healing trauma, healing family trauma, healing personal trauma, and exercising boundaries. That's the best. Boundaries and speaking up at the moment. Which reminds me, I've definitely had to step back from a lot of family and even some friends, because the more I've been setting boundaries, that's different for some people, and it has created some, resistance, maybe both ways, but it's been a little lonely, but that's okay. All right, drink lots of water, hot water if you can during the winter time. I need some water. You can see it in my face. I need some water. Warm baths, and for some reason I'm hearing like greens as far as what's outside of your house. Bring it in your house. You can put those in your baths, and even some things you can make teas with. And if you do have a chance, do cold plunges. Like if you live somewhere where there's a lot of snow, you can take a nice hot bath, and then, if you have privacy, and then go jump in the snow and then come back in. Very good for you. All right, that's my share for today. Just to look at the mix up of education. Till later.